I begin, I do want to point out that I recently finished reading Fault in Our Stars again, so I have a lot of feels, but I will try to move past that to review something. But it won't be Fault in Our Stars because I just finished reading it, and I can't. I can't. So what I am going to talk about today is the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes was a comic strip drawn by Bill Watterson. It started in 1985 and ended 10 years later in 1995. It showed us the adventures of Calvin, a 6-year-old boy, and his stuffed tiger Hobbes. One of the reasons that I really love this particular comic strip is that it values imagination. Since we follow the adventures of a 6-year-old boy, we get a lot of the way that he views the world. First and foremost, of course, being his stuffed tiger Hobbes, who is a real-life talking tiger. But we also get a lot more of just how he views the world when he plays whatever character he happens to be playing. Most of the time he plays himself, but occasionally he's Stupendous Man the superhero, Tracer Bullet the private eye, or Spaceman Spiff the space explorer. And of course, with all of these things, he's basically just exploring the world around him or trying to deal with issues that he happens to be going through. Most of the time dealing with him getting into trouble for something that he's done. And Calvin and Hobbes really is just hilarious. And while it does spend a lot of the time being hilarious and focusing on trivial things like Calvin trying to avoid going to school or trying to avoid doing a problem, it also does a lot of addressing serious issues. Like, there's a series of strips where Calvin discovers a baby raccoon who's been badly hurt. He takes this raccoon home and tries to care for it as best he and his family can, but ultimately the raccoon dies. So Calvin has to deal with the fact that this raccoon came into his life and just as recently left it. It doesn't lose any of the usual Calvin and Hobbes charm, it just directs it more toward this very serious issue, and it does it very well. And it also deals with the importance of Christmas and loss of security when someone breaks into their house and other issues like this. So it's not just a funny comic strip, it's a funny comic strip that does, on occasion, deal with important issues. And I think some of the best strips are where Calvin and Hobbes are just having conversations about life. And it's not usually anything overly philosophical, but it's nice to see these two, who have very different views of humanity, kind of banter off of each other. All in all, this was just a very well done comic strip, and I think I would definitely say that it's one of my favorites. So, that's my opinion on Calvin and Hobbes. If you agreed or disagreed or ambivalent toward my opinion, you can let me know down in the comments. And I will see all of you tomorrow.